darkness kind of
wait a minute, y'all.
for a while.
Y'all, I understand y'all love going camping. I just can't not imagine going into a tent and the only thing that is keeping me away from these fucking predators is a fucking piece of fabric.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna. That is terrifying if you really think about it, though. Like, all you got is like some thin or thick material, like
thin ass fucking fabric that's keeping you from a fucking wolf, a coyote, a bear. Yo, what's goody with y'all, man? Yo, what's up with y'all, man? Yo, this is Reef'Lik.
This is Leaky.
And this is Reef'Lik, Anime Horror Gang. What's goody with y'all, man? Got another video.
Today we're going to be reacting to MR.BALLEN'S.
Yo, man, shout out to Mr. Ballin', man. Yo, go show him some love and support, man. You already know, man. Mr. Ballin's the GOAT, man. Yo, man, we love him so much over here. Y'all, please show us some love and support as well over here, man. Yo, we getting new subscribers every day, man. Yo, we love doing these videos, man. We love making y'all day even better, man. Yo, show us some love and support, man. You already know, man. We're supreme losers over here, man. Yo, we love for the newbies to come and stay with us, man. Yo, we more than subscribers. Y'all are family to us, y'all. Family. And like, we really want to keep it real with y'all because, you know, all of us is nerds over here. And all of us, you know, we all got to stick together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So please, like, share this video with everybody else so we can get more nerds to come into our community. Because, you know, we love y'all so much and we want our family to be big, man. Y'all supreme losers, man. Anime Horror Gang, you already know, man. Like, we love y'all so much, man. Thank y'all for y'all support, man. You already know, man. So y'all sit back, relax, and let's begin. Anime Horror Gang. Let's get it, man. Yo, okay, y'all. So we got another MR.BALLEN'S joint right here. It's called If You Find This Treasure Map. If you find this treasure map, don't follow it. And y'all, I'm not even going to front with y'all. Going out there and see is fucking crazy to me. Yeah,
I understand you, though. It's like you don't know what you're going to be in store for when you're out there looking for something.
Yeah, and it's like, y'all, like, if y'all going out to sea, make sure, it's even scary taking the cruise. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody could rob the cruise. I'm not gonna lie with y'all, after Titanic, I feel like I don't know about boats. And then I can't imagine myself getting on the water. Like, y'all, we haven't, like, discovered a lot of percentages of our water yet. We haven't went to the dark, deep part of the water.
Shoot,
you think I'm gonna get in the ocean? I mean, I might go to the beach or something like that. But, like, going out there to the bodies of water, like, I feel like, and it's just water around me and ain't nothing else. It just feels like, nah, like, I'm not that type of guy. Yeah. Like, nah, I'm not built like that. Like, even the people getting crabs and lobsters and stuff, like, I couldn't even do that.
Yeah, man, that gets you wondering, though.
Like, shout out to them because y'all are doing the jobs that I would not do to try to fill up our bellies. Like, that's the that is wild. And I feel like, yo, I give y'all more respect because y'all some manly motherfuckers, man. Because I can't do that shit. You can't do that.
Nope.
I can't do that. Probably y'all can't do that. We're too nerdy. We just too nerdy for this, and we don't know. I'm staying nerdy on the land. I ain't staying nerdy in that ocean. I'm sorry. Survival of the fittest. I'm sorry. But yeah, y'all, show MR.BALLEN'S some love. You already know, man. Yo, we love y'all so much, man. Please join the family, y'all. Y'all watching this, please subscribe. Because our family's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we want more of y'all to come a part of our family. And, you know, we're going to be a proven thing over these next couple of weeks and stuff like that. We're trying to, like, you know, upgrade the channel a little bit just to get more, a little finesse on the channel. And, like, you know, we just want to entertain y'all and stuff and make sure y'all have a good day, man. Y'all show MR.BALLEN'S some love. Let's get right into it. We won't hold y'all up for long. Let's get it.
There is a mountain range in the middle of the desert in Arizona that's called the Superstition Mountains. And for decades, adventurers have been going into these mountains to try to find a secret treasure. But many of those adventurers have died trying to do this, and many more have come running out of those mountains claiming that unseen predators are lurking all around, stalking you as you move through these mountains. So today's story is going to be about one of those adventurers who goes into the superstitions and he comes face to face with something.
Death. Literally death. Like,
Yeah, there's no other way to describe it.
It's delivered in story
Death.
format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So,
Okay.
if that's of interest to you, the next time you're at the Like Button's house, please replace their favorite cologne with tuna juice. Also, please
like that's it, bro.
don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's get into today's story. Yo, I love it.
Perfume smell like tuna juice.
Threading the needle. Oh god.
late on the afternoon of June 14th, 1931, a 59-year-old man named Dr. Adolf Ruth climbed off his donkey that he'd been riding on for hours through the superstition.
Are you looking spiffy?
Once he was off the animal, the doctor shook his legs to work out the cramps, and then he just took in the scenery all around him, and as he did, he smiled. Now, to the average person, what Dr. Ruth was seeing in front of him would look very impressive.
Y'all, I'm not gonna front with y'all. Like, this is my preference. Like, after watching like Silent Hill, I can't go in this shit. Like, I'm too scared. Like,
I understand though.
dude, it's like Silent Hill. Like, no. Like,
Again, you don't know what lurks in the desert.
you know what's watching you out there. Look at that. I know it looks peaceful and beautiful, but look at that. Skinwalkers.
And this
Man, I was looking at those cactus. You know how big them joints get?
Shoot, yeah.
that almost seemed like a maze. Also, high up in these mountains were all these caves where people used to live, but now they were abandoned. In fact, today, if you were to travel through the Superstition Mountains, you could go days without seeing another person. And that was true
Damn.
in 1931 when Dr. Ruth was there. But Dr. Ruth knew that where he was standing right now, between two towering rock walls, was not just a regular desert canyon. This particular stretch of desert was about to make Dr. Ruth a very rich man. He was going to be the very first person to actually find the lost Dutchman gold mine. He saved
Wow.
the gold mine that had claimed the lives of hundreds of other treasure seekers who had come into the Superstition Mountains and not come out again. But Dr. Ruth knew he had a special advantage that nobody else who had come out here looking had had. He had a treasure map that was going to show him where this treasure was, and he knew it was right nearby. And with
Oh, my bad, y'all.
that was slung over his shoulder, and he felt the edge.
Y'all, I'm sorry to say this. I know you will have a treasure map, but you can still get fucked.
Yeah, badly.
What if that treasure map, I know it's a map, but what if it leads you into a trap? You don't know that.
Especially, man, it's like if you're looking for some treasure or whatever, it's like there's always going to be some traps around. It's like,
Yeah, you think, come on, y'all. Like, these people was living on this earth before us. You thinking they ain't got in their mind like, oh, okay, let's set this up so if future intruders come, they don't know what's going to hit them.
yeah.
And they go, yo, they're literally getting a lick off you beyond the dead.
You see that with the ancient pyramids and stuff, man.
Yo, I'm hot you about to get your head knocked off from somebody in the past. Yo, back to the future. Yo, they about to self-delete you. That's
Years
and
later.
it's crazy because y'all not even alive to take this treasure. Y'all are dead. Y'all might as well just let me have it.
Man, honestly, even after they're gone, it's still theirs. Yeah.
Like, it's like, I understand, like, but it's like y'all can't take that money with you. So if you're dead, bro, just spend the money while you're alive. You can't take it with you while you're dead. What, you gonna put a curse on that? That's just wild, bro.
Of the treasure
Yeah, I get you, man.
folded up and tucked inside of his notebook. But as Dr. Ruth was daydreaming about finding this treasure, he heard someone grunt from behind him.
Oh,
Suddenly,
shit.
Dr. Ruth pulled his hand out of his pack, and he whipped his head around, and he looked at the two cowboy guides who had brought him out here, and Dr. Ruth just said, "What?" In Dr. Ruth's daily life, he was a retired veterinarian and a government employee who worked in Washington, D.C. He was a small guy with glasses, and he walked with a limp, and he knew these two cowboy guides of his just thought he was some frail old man, and this deeply offended Dr. Ruth. And so, because the doctor totally resented these cowboys, He had told them that, yes, I need your help getting me to a particular spot in the desert, but once I get there, you guys are done. You can leave, I'll pay you, and you can just go away, I'll be fine on my own. And as it happened, they had reached this particular spot, and now Dr. Ruth is looking at these guys like, all right, let's go, get out of here, you don't need to be here anymore. But the cowboys, now that they were at this spot where they're supposed to go back home, they kind of hesitated before they left, because they looked at Dr. Ruth, and they did think he was kind of a frail old man. And they
Yeah, bro, like...
people died going into this canyon to look for this treasure.
Like... I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'll be like that too. Like we be like that with our grandparents. You know what I'm saying? Like rest in peace to ours, because when our grandparents is here, we was so fragile with them. It's like you couldn't really like hug them like too tight, because it's like, you know, you might really like break something. And it's like I be feeling like, dang, like I understand them cowboys. Like I don't know if they was trying to sell them up or
it's
like you would be worried for, like when you see an older person, you don't want them to get hurt. It feels like you feel like they're fragile.
Like obligated to make sure they're safe or something.
Yeah, like you don't want to like hurt no old person. And I feel like, man, like I don't want to leave you out there to go do that, bro.
Yeah, especially how dangerous that is.
And we heard people died here, so it's like, bro,
if anything, I would probably just stay man.
Yeah, I would probably like went away, but I would have still kept my distance so he wouldn't see me unless he needed help.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have fully left. But hey, he wanted it though. He told him to leave, so.
Made a noise to get Dr. Ruth to turn around. He chimed in and said, you know, doctor, I don't know if this is a good idea for you to go in there on your own. And Dr. Ruth, again, is super offended, and he just says to the cowboy, I'm fine. Just go. I'm going to set up camp. I'm good. Get out of here. And then Dr. Ruth pulled up.
All right.
He handed some to the cowboys. The cowboys took the money. They looked at each other and just kind of shrugged. And then the cowboys turned around and galloping away.
Man.
They did. Dr. Ruth was standing there feeling kind of proud of himself for getting rid of these guys. But as they kind of faded into the distance, Dr. Ruth turned back around and he looked out at the landscape. And suddenly, now that he was actually all alone, a lot of his bravery was now gone. Now he was feeling maybe a little apprehensive. But Dr. Ruth reminded himself that he knew what he was doing. He was not a frail old man, despite the way he looked. He could handle it.
Bro, I feel like, you know, you gotta know your limits, bro. You gotta know your limits.
Exactly.
Then he'd be rich and famous. And so with
You gotta know your limits, bro. You got to. Like, you can't just think you're invincible.
Exactly. No. It's like
a little while later, as the sun was starting to set, Dr. Ruth is...
Y'all, I ain't gonna be pausing it a lot, but I'm just saying, like, y'all, I know y'all, like, everybody's young and, like, we young too, but y'all, we know our limits as humans. Like, like I'll bench like 500 pounds, and if you throw on 600, I know I can't lift it. Cause I'm like, I might need you to spot me. Like, don't leave me here. We got limits, y'all. If y'all can't do something, don't give up. But if you know it's challenging, you can still push through. But if you know for a fact in your conscience that your conscience is telling you, yo, this ain't no good idea, don't fucking do it.
You know, it's like he said, like as soon as they left, man, all that confidence went away.
Like, for example, you know damn well you can't climb a tree. But when you get up, you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to climb this tree. But when you're like about to start climbing, something in your gut's telling you, yo, don't do this because you know you ain't supposed to be I be feeling like, yeah, I'm good. Like, nah, but you got to know your limits. Like, we all ain't Superman.
Yep.
This not no Justice League shit. We could get fucking killed. Like, for real, we ain't Batman. Batman probably can't even do this. Like, bro, he needs equipment. Like,
decided it was time to stop, and so he stopped his donkey, he hopped off, he found a clearing by the side of the trail, and he began setting up his campsite. And then finally, once the canvas tent was all set up and his campsite was good to go, Dr. Ruth started a...
I wonder how them people died.
That's in front of the fire, and he sat down on it.
Man.
I hope there ain't no coyotes and none of that.
Oh, there is. There probably is.
Oh, man.
Dr. Ruth's son acquired this treasure map from a man in Mexico, and this man in Mexico apparently got it from a family that used to do mining in the Superstition Mountains, and they had drawn out this map before apparently they were all massacred inside of the superstitions, but somehow or another, their map they had drawn about where they thought this treasure was had survived. And so Dr. Ruth's son had gotten this map.
Okay, so how old is this fucking map?
Dr. Ruth held the map up and he stared at it for a second.
I don't know, man.
He couldn't help but be drawn to this huge rock formation way off in the distance. So not on the map, but actually in real life, basically far down the canyon, there was just this massive rock formation. And for a second, Dr. Ruth was looking at it, thinking it kind of looked like a huge, oversized gravestone. And in a way, it kind of freaked him out. But he looked back at the map, and he realized there actually was a drawing on this map that clearly represented this big rock formation. And on the map, it had an arrow pointing to this little drawing, and it said this thing, this big rock formation, was called Weaver's Needle, and according to the map, apparently the treasure was right near Weaver's Needle. And so Dr. Ruth was like, great.
Dude, you see how steep that shit look? That shit looks steep.
And on that note, Dr. Ruth folded the map up, he tucked it back into his notebook, put it back in his pack, and then he took his beans and meat off the fire and he began to eat. And as he did, he whistled periodically to fill the silence that was filling the entire canyon. Back when I first started MR.BALLEN'S, so early 2020, I was doing all my work out of this room in the back of my house in Pennsylvania. It was basically like a shed. It definitely was not up to code. Whoever had owned the house before us had built this kind of ramshackle room off the back of the house, and that became my studio. And I remember, since there was no heat in there...
Sorry, Mr. Ballin.
By the time Dr. Ruth was done eating his food, it was totally dark inside of this canyon, like completely pitch black. And as the doctor was kind of taking in this moment of absolute darkness and silence,
it feels like the Django. It really do.
Yeah.
Walls. It sounded like
I see it. I see it though.
And it kind of echoed through the
Django.
felt relieved. Even though
If you watch the Django, you know.
Cowboy guides that he wanted to go into this canyon by himself. Now that he was here by himself and it's so dark and quiet and kind of spooky, he was glad to hear hooves because it meant that must be a person riding a horse, and so I'm not alone anymore. But when Dr. Ruth called out and said, "Who's there?" there was no response. And
Man, it's like you don't know that.
It just went totally quiet again. And then, from all over the canyon, all Dr. Ruth heard was the yipping and howling of coyotes everywhere. By this point, Dr. Ruth couldn't help it. He felt terrified, and suddenly all he was thinking about were all the stories he had heard about unseen predators lurking in the shadows, stalking people who come into this canyon. And so Dr. Ruth decided, you know what, I'm just going to bed. And so he extinguished his fire. He went inside of his tent, and he laid down inside of his bedroll, and even though he knew he really wasn't actually safer in here, all he had was, canvas tent material protecting him from the outside world, but mentally, being inside the tent, he just felt safer. So Dr. Ruth would lay in his tent in the total darkness, kind of
Wait a minute, y'all.
for a while.
Y'all, I understand y'all love going camping. I just can't not imagine going into a tent and the only thing that is keeping me away from these fucking predators is a fucking piece of fabric.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna... That is terrifying if you really think about it, though. Like, all you guys like some thin or thick material, like...
Thin-ass fucking fabric that's keeping you from a fucking wolf, a coyote, a bear.
Hey,
Y'all, a bear could rip through a piece of fabric. If we could rip through a piece of fabric with our fingernails, you think a bear is going to take that?
Yeah,
Dude, I could.
That's game over right there.
And then you can hear the bear. I know this don't got nothing to do with bear, but you can hear a bear go like outside your tent. Like, can you imagine that? I'll be creeped the fuck out. And then can you imagine one wrong move and that thing could just annihilate you? It's over. It's over. I couldn't sleep in something like that that's keeping me like away from a predator.
Yeah.
There were no more sounds. The night remained silent and dark. And eventually, Dr. Ruth fell asleep.
And then someone had the nerve to get a fucking see-through one. I'm like, is you fucking serious?
silent. He sat up and he looked out of his tent.
Now you want them to see you now.
Like, someone had a mesh one. I think it was a see-through mesh one. That shit got me mad. Like, bro, you're asking to get attacked.
Yeah.
But not that far away were two eyes staring at him.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Nope.
Dr. Ruth, his heart started to race, and he's realizing that an animal, a person, something is right there. And so Dr. Ruth, he was about to yell out when suddenly the eyes blinked and vanished. Dr. Ruth fumbled for his gun, and he threw it, and he aimed it out of the tent, and he yelled, "I'll shoot if you come back, I'll shoot!"
Ah!
Stay away.
I'll shoot if you come back, I'll shoot!
Wondering if this thing, this person, whatever it was nearby, but he never saw the eyes again, and there were no more sounds outside, and so eventually...
Yo, is that creepy when you're outside and it's just dead quiet?
Yeah, I can never go into these places alone. I can't.
Outside and began walking out in the direction where he saw those eyes to see if he could find some tracks on the ground. In his head, he was hoping he would find a bunch of coyote tracks.
This is Silent Hill, I'm telling you, bro.
Even though in the back of his head, he's thinking, that didn't...
Or Hills Have Eyes, I think.
Yeah.
Which one was it with the monsters?
Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, Hills Have Eyes. There's some Hills Have Eyes shit.
All over the place. And so he's thinking...
Well, both of them basically had monsters in it, so...
This is just insane, bro. I'm not going to no tent that's keeping me away from a man like that.
Tracks that were not coyote tracks. They were human tracks, or what appeared to be human tracks, like barefoot feet tracks.
Oh, hell no.
Some of them were really small, like a child's foot. Now, Dr. Ruth was a really small guy and wore a men's size 6, so he had very small feet. And for a second, Dr. Ruth thought, oh, maybe these are my footprints. But he was
No,
like,
bro.
I wasn't over here, and I wasn't walking around barefoot. So whose tracks were these? And then, making it worse, Dr. Ruth noticed these little prints, these little human-looking prints. They walked all the way over to the side of his tent, and they appeared to circle his tent over and over again.
Bro.
Then the prints didn't wander off and disappear. It's almost like the prints just continued in a circle, and then whatever this was making the prints just stopped where it was and vanished. At this point, Dr. Ruth was terrified, and he decided, let's just go towards Weaver's Needle, let's find this treasure, and get out of here.
No. My life is worth more than that.
His donkey, and he began heading towards Weaver's Needle, the thing that looked like a big gravestone. After riding for a couple of hours, Dr. Ruth was close enough to this huge formation that he was actually inside of the shadow cast by this Weaver's Needle. And when Dr. Ruth consulted his map, he saw that where the treasure was supposedly located was actually within the shadow of Weaver's Needle. And so he knew he was close. And so Dr. Ruth continued following the map as best he could. He turned this corner behind a rock formation, and then right up ahead, he saw this big wall of cacti that all had these axe heads lodged into their flesh, like someone had taken an axe, smacked the axe head in, and then broken off the handle, but like dozens of times. And so Dr. Ruth stopped, and he's looking at these cacti.
Can you do that with a cactus? Like cut the thing off and eat from inside of it?
Yeah.
Like I've seen that in Nacho Libre.
So he's thinking, oh my goodness, this map is accurate. I found another landmark. I must be near the treasure. And so now all he had to do was kind of back up and orient this cacti with the axe heads in it, with Weaver's Needle and its shadow. And if he could just orient it correctly, he would know exactly where to go. And after backing up and moving the map around a couple of times, he finally had it totally oriented, and he realized there was a path straight up ahead that would go right to the base of Weaver's Needle, and he thought, that's it, that's where I dig. There's the treasure. And so feeling excited, Dr. Ruth hopped off the donkey, he grabbed his pickaxe, and he began moving in the direction of where he was going to dig. But before he got there, he heard something behind him. He turned to look, but by the time he saw whatever was behind him, it was already too late. An explosion rang out, and then everything went dark. 10 days later, those two cowboy guides who had brought Dr. Ruth in...
It was a mine? Or like a...
came back out to check on him, to make sure he was okay. And they found his campsite, and it was abandoned. And they searched the entire area, all the way down to Weaver's Needle and back, and there was no trace of Dr. Ruth. Over the next 45 days, a much larger search party was launched in this area to try to find Dr. Ruth. But at the end of those 45 days, there still was no sign of Dr. Ruth, And so the search was called off, and it was assumed that Dr. Ruth was dead. 3.5 months after that big search ended, so in December of 1931, another set of explorers were in the Superstition Mountains near Weaver's Needle, the big gravestone-looking rock formation, and they would discover a human skull on the ground. It was Dr. Ruth's skull, and it had 2 gaping holes in the side of it. A month after that, another set of explorers who were in the Superstition Mountains would find the rest of Dr. Ruth's skeleton located approximately 1 mile away from where his head had been found. But while the discovery of Dr. Ruth's body did provide some closure for his family, it actually only deepened the mystery of what the heck is going on in the Superstition Mountains. Because, one, despite the fact that Dr. Ruth's skull had been found with 2 holes in it, and the fact that his skull was found 1 mile away from the rest of his skeleton, authorities who investigated his death quickly said Dr. Ruth died of natural causes, and they closed the case. And the second weird thing...
That's not natural causes. A big hole in your head? What caused that?
They would find his checkbook. And inside of his checkbook, there was all this writing that was clearly from Dr. Ruth, writing his checks. And then towards the back of this book, there was a relatively fresh-looking message, and the handwriting looked totally different than Dr. Ruth's handwriting, that just said, Veni, Vidi, Vici, which in Latin means I came, I saw, I conquered. Now, we don't know who wrote this message, but the running theory is...
Yo, you're a demon, whoever wrote that.
Dr. Ruth wrote this note inside of his checkbook, but we don't know why they wrote this note. Now, eventually, people began to think that because of this note that was in his checkbook, that suggests that maybe Dr. Ruth really was on the precipice of actually finally finding this treasure, and maybe the stories were right about the Superstition Mountains, that something lurks in the canyon protecting this treasure. When it saw Dr. Ruth was about to take the treasure, this thing killed Dr. Ruth to stop him, i.e. they came, saw, and conquered Dr. Ruth. Also, adding to the strangeness of this entire story, in 1945, so 13 years after Dr. Ruth's skeleton was discovered, an adventurer named Barry Storm published a book about his journey to try to figure out what actually happened to Dr. Ruth. And he would say in this book that when he went into the Superstition Mountains, somebody started firing a gun at him from off in the distance, and after taking cover and looking, he couldn't see anybody. And then when he began taking steps farther into the canyon to continue to explore, the shots rang out again. And so Barry Storm ultimately fled the Superstition Mountains, and he would tell people that whoever was out there shooting at him, it seemed like they were shooting warning shots at him. Like, if you come any closer, I'll kill you. To this day, no one has actually found any hidden treasure in the Superstition Mountains, but about 9,000 people...
No, I'm being honest with you, bro. Whoever's doing that shit, they don't want you near that shit. I'm telling you that.
It's best to just stay away, man.
Yeah, man, nah, like, yo, that's a warning.
Looking for the treasure every year.
Wow.
During the late 1970s, the inhabitants of Scotland's largest city were subjected to a series of terrifying encounters with a hideous nocturnal entity, whose incessant twitching and animalistic grunting put the fear of God into those who encountered him. This week, we take a look at the Gurning Man of Glasgow.
Man.
So, that's going to do it.
Alright, that was kind of creepy.
Be sure to check out our podcast called the Mr. Ballin'.
Alright, y'all, go support Mr. Ballin', man. You already know. We love y'all so much, man. Thank you for watching this video. We hope we made y'all day more better than what it was. If you was having a bad day, we made your day better. We love y'all so much. Please join the family. For the newbies, please subscribe to the family so you can be a part of this big happy family over here. Anime Horror Gang, man. Supreme Losers over here, man. Yo, share this video, y'all, so our community can get bigger. More nerds, more nerds can come over here, be a part of this family, man. And I hope y'all enjoy our journey, man. We love y'all so much, man. Until the next reaction.
See you next time.
Deuces!